The Ghost in the Old Lighthouse. On a small rocky island, where the waves whispered stories and the moon liked to watch, stood the old lighthouse. It had a red door that had been painted many times and a brass lamp that loved to glow. Lila, the little keeper, lived there with Patch the tabby cat. Lila wore a yellow raincoat that smelled faintly of lemons and always had bright eyes for trouble and wonder. Patch had one white paw and a bell that jingled like tiny silver bells when she walked. Every night, the lighthouse kept the way safe for boats that hummed their own sleepy songs. One night, when the wind told especially long tales, a small sparkle slipped through a window and hung in the stairwell like a tiny star. Lila heard a soft giggle and tipped her head. Patch pricked her ears and walked very slowly toward the sparkle. The little glow wobbled and blinked, showing a soft blue face with a crooked smile. "Hello," it whispered like a bell. Lila laughed gently and said, "Hello there. Who are you?" The sparkle twirled shyly and whispered back, "Glimmer." Glimmer was not scary at all. He was the tiniest ghost anyone had ever met, with a warm glow and a habit of leaving soft sparkles on the banister. He loved to tidy the glass of the lantern, because cleaned glass made him dance the prettiest. He liked to hide under a teacup and pop out to make Patch purr. Lila listened to his soft hums and hummed back. Slowly, the hush of the lighthouse grew into a quiet song of friends learning each other's names and favorite little things. Days slipped by like small warm boats. Lila taught Glimmer how to wind the lamp's old key and how to listen for the bell that told when fog came. Patch taught Glimmer how to play hide and pounce without startling the fish. Glimmer learned where crumbs liked to hide and how to make dust bunnies giggle. They shared jam on toast at dawn and watched the sea's silver ribbon in the morning. Each evening grew softer because 3 small friends lived in the lighthouse now. One tidy afternoon, while Patch chased a ribbon of seaweed that had blown in, her bell jingled and she batted at something small and bright under an old tin box. Patch carefully nudged it out with her white paw. It was a tiny brass key, twisty and warm to the touch. The key shimmered as if it remembered the sound of a bell from long ago. Lila picked it up and turned it over. "Where did you find that?" she asked. Patch meowed like she had found the beginning of an adventure. The little key fit into a tiny hidden lock beneath the spiral stairs. When Lila turned it, a little wooden panel creaked open to reveal a folded map and a note tied with sea blue twine. Patch sniffed and pressed her whiskers on the paper. The note read, "Sing to the sea and the lamp will remember how to shine." The map showed a tiny marked spot near the top of the lighthouse and a doodle of a smiling wave. Everyone looked at each other. Even the wind seemed to lean in. That night they tried a little sea song. Glimmer hummed in a thin, bright voice, Lila tapped a wooden spoon on a teacup, and Patch mewed along like a tiny chorus. The brass lamp blinked and seemed to listen. Outside, the moon made the waves glimmer like little silver coins. When the song ended, the lamp gave a happy chime and its light grew cozy, like a blanket. The lighthouse seemed to sigh and settle, pleased by the song and the small sleepy noise of friendship. The next morning, the sea sounded different. Clouds gathered like a flock of gray sheep, and the air smelled like a storm cookie. Lila checked the lamp and tightened a bolt. Patch greeted a gust of wind by flicking her tail. Seagull Swoop arrived, wings cutting the wind as he squawked, "Storm is coming." The little island readied itself. Lila stuffed extra blankets and stacked lantern oil, while Glimmer fluffed the curtains until they waved politely like small flags. Everyone felt the great, soft hush before a storm. When night fell, the storm knocked and knocked like a giant at the windows. Rain drummed on the roof and waves jumped high enough to sing thunder songs. The lamp struggled as the wind blew harder. The coast lights of far-off boats bobbed like sleepy fireflies in the dark. Lila wound the lamp tight, but the flame kept swaying. Patch curled on Lila's boots and jingled softly to show she was brave. Glimmer felt a strange flutter. He wanted to help more than dust and dances. The wind howled louder. The lamp's glass rattled. Far away, a little boat's light flickered like it needed help. Lila's hands worked fast, but the ancient brass gears creaked and a spring snapped. The lamp dimmed to a tired whisper. "Oh no," Lila breathed. Patch bounced forward and pressed her paw against a small wheel. Glimmer zipped up the stairwell in a streak of blue, trying to find anything loose. The lighthouse trembled and the sea sang louder. A tiny knot of worry sat in everyone's bellies. Glimmer felt a brave sparkle grow. He zipped into the lantern room and floated close to the dim flame. "I can help," he whispered, though ghosts don't always speak so loudly. He pressed his warm glow next to the lamp and hummed the little sea song they had practiced. The song echoed around the brass and glass, and the lamp blinked like a sleepy friend waking. With a whoosh of courage, Glimmer's glow and the lamp's flame touched and fizzed into a bright, steady light. The room filled with a golden cheer that felt almost like a hug. Lila remembered the tiny brass key and the hidden gear. She darted down the stairs and turned the key into a small brass wheel. The mechanism clicked and hummed as old parts remembered their old dances. Patch twined around Lila's boots and Seagull Swoop circled like a cheering ribbon. Together the little team turned, wound, and sang until the lamp thumped into a robust, steady glow that could be seen far across the sea. The storm still raged, but the lighthouse shone with proud bravery. Outside, sailors saw the steady beam and found their way. A small boat bobbed safe and waved bright lanterns. The sea that had roared began to murmur and then calm. The clouds sighed apart and the moon peeked through, proud as an audience. Back inside, everyone cheered, Lila clapped, Patch twirled in a happy loop, and Seagull Swoop cried out a silly, triumphant song. Glimmer floated higher and higher until he giggled so loud he left a trail of stars. They all felt the very big, very warm glow that comes when friends help one another. After the storm, the lighthouse smelled like salt and soap and fresh linen. Lila made warm tea and everyone shared a bit of toast. Glimmer floated down and rested his glow on the windowsill, telling a tiny story about the first night he learned to hum. Lila listened and then told a little story about a kitten who once chased a moonbeam. Patch stretched and purred like a small motor. The island felt snug and safe, wrapped in the light that had been mended by a song, a key, a cat, and a kind keeper. That night, Glimmer told Lila a secret. He had once been a helper in the lighthouse long, long ago. When the sea was very young, he learned how to keep lamps warm and how to hum the old songs. One day, he decided to travel to the moon to bring back a dust mote, but he missed the lamp and came back as a tiny glow. He had been shy because people sometimes thought ghosts were frightening. Lila hugged him with words and Patch rubbed noses as if to say, "We are your family now." From then on, the lighthouse had an extra kind of light. Glimmer kept the lamp cozy on the darkest nights and played with the moonbeams at dawn. Patch found new places to nap and Lila hummed new little tunes that made the sea smile. Visitors who came by boat left with pockets full of starlight and stories about a lighthouse where a ghost tucked in children's dreams and showed sailors the way. The island was full of small, brave things: songs, keys, jingling bells, and warm smiles. On quiet nights, if you visited and sat on the old stone steps, you might hear the lamp's soft tick, Patch's tiny bell, and a far-off sea song that sounded like wind and giggles braided together. Sometimes a little bright spiral of light would dance by your shoulder and whisper, "Hello, friend," before darting back to play. Lila would offer you jam on toast and a mug of tea while Seagull Swoop told silly jokes. You would leave with a pocket full of silver sea reflections and a promise that the light would always be there. So, when you hear a bell far away and a lamp twinkling on a rocky shore, think of the old lighthouse and its little friends. Think of Glimmer, who is gentle and brave, of Lila, who is kind and clever, and of Patch, who is brave in quiet ways. Think of the tiny brass key that fit into an old place and the song that reminded metal how to dance. Nights have softer edges there now, and every boat finds its way home by a light that is part flame, part ghost glow, and very much friendship.